Y'all listen. Christmas 2025 was meant to glow with warm lights, staged smiles, and that perfect holiday love people post for clone. But for Claressa Shields, that date reportedly became a silent embarrassment. One of those wounds that never yells. It only settles deep in your ribs and decays. Because something here refuses to align. Claressa goes live inside a Louis Vuitton boutique. Luxury flashing, a duffel bag shown live. And then the receipt surfaces. Her receipt. Her spend. Her cash. Zero doubt. No excuses needed. It's right there in ink. But later on, that exact duffel bag gets rebranded like it's a present from Papoose. A present. So why does the receipt show she paid for it? That's the opening fracture. And once that fracture spreads, the entire plot starts bleeding. Then lands the second blow, an earlier store video. Same date vibe, same lens angle vibe. Papoose gripping the camera exactly how he's been spotted filming in Remy Ma's clips before. And according to the story, the second that footage slid into DMs and began moving, it was wiped mysteriously. Like someone placed a call and tried to scrub the evidence before the public could link the dots. But the internet never forgets. And Tasha K is out here claiming she already had the video, already had what she labels proof. And that's when this shifts from messy romance chatter into something colder, a money triangle. Because the claim isn't only cheating, it's exploitation. It's control. It's a keep her near while the marriage remains intact move. And if you're asking why cash keeps surfacing, tax liens, pawn shop slips, debt, remember this. When people get desperate, love turns costume and loyalty turns transactional. And the bleakest part, if Claressa truly thought she was chosen while he stayed still bound to Remy, then this wasn't passion. It was a setup. Now listen to what gets said next, because this is where the mood flips and the coded language starts revealing exactly how they allegedly viewed her all along that night.
I need a trick. I gotta put my glasses on, Jen. Hold on for a second. I need a trick. Yeah, I need a trick. I need a trick. Woo! Papoose was out here looking for a trick. And he got one. Yes, beautiful girl. Beautiful. Gorgeous girl. Y'all ain't gonna tell me Claressa ugly. I'm sorry, she's not. Shit. Don't care.
Christmas 2025 was meant to feel symbolic. Soft lights, selected family. A moment where silence and gifts both carry weight. But in this story, Christmas didn't deliver peace. It revealed inconsistency. Publicly, Claressa Shields said something plain, vulnerable, almost breakable. I was alone on Christmas. No dramatics, no fury, just a line that painted her as isolated emotionally and physically. And briefly, people accepted that as the full truth. But the internet never stops at quotes. It tracks timelines. And timelines don't lie, they crash. Because on that exact day, while the storyline of loneliness was settling in, Claressa was live on camera inside a Louis Vuitton store. Not later, not earlier. That exact holiday window, luxury glow, designer racks, costly bags, a duffel bag centered clearly. Then arrived the detail that shifted everything. The receipt not hidden, not exposed by outsiders, shared, readable enough to see, readable enough to date, readable enough to confirm one fact beyond debate. The duffel bag wasn't a gift. It was paid for by Claressa. And that's where the first fracture formed, because hours later, not days, that same duffel bag resurfaced. This time not on a store shelf, but in Papoose's hands, framed like it was something he gave her. A gift? The implication was clear. The contradiction was louder. If it was a gift, why was the receipt hers? That question didn't yell. It didn't explode instantly. It lingered. And when questions linger, people start pulling threads. What unraveled next wasn't romance gossip. It was pattern recognition. Because the story didn't just crack, it split. Later that same day, a video emerged from a first store. The location was different, but the energy felt familiar. The camera angle, the grip, the placement. Papoose was holding the camera the same way he had in previous videos featuring Remy Ma. Not theory, visual consistency, and then almost as fast as the clip appeared. It disappeared, deleted, not buried by time, not swallowed by algorithms, removed. According to the store owner, the deletion wasn't accidental. It wasn't delayed. It came after a call that said, take it down. By then though, it was already too late because the clip had landed somewhere else first with Tasha K. At that moment, the story stopped being about whether a bag was a gift. It became about who was where and when. And that's where the claim hardened. Papoose, Claressa, and Remy Ma were all in the same city on the same day during the same holiday window. That's when the explanation shifted. Suddenly, it wasn't they weren't together. It became those were two different days, but timelines don't bend easily. Same outfit, same camera handling, same store environment, different days with identical details. That explanation didn't convince. It lingered in the air. And lingering explanations invite sharper suspicion. This is where Tasha K delivers a remark that shifts the mood from investigative to disturbing. Not as evidence, not as confirmation, but as intuition. Allegedly, she says her spirit keeps warning her that something is still unfolding out of sight. That the marriage was never truly paused. That what the public witnessed was not distance. It was separation by sections. And suddenly, the triangle reshapes itself. This is not a love triangle. It is a financial triangle. One person emotionally open, one marriage legally untouched, and one stream of money holding everything in place. And money is where the narrative grows heavier. Because alongside these timeline conflicts, another allegation appears. One that forces a tougher question. Claressa was allegedly shown an $8 million win records deal. A figure that changes lives. A figure that secures futures. But it also raises a basic, unavoidable question. If Papoose was allegedly broke, where would that money come from? This is where Tasha K introduces what she calls receipts. Pawn shop documentation, jewelry, chains, bracelets, items that once signaled status, now recorded as collateral. According to Remy Ma's own earlier statements, Papoose was not covering bills. He was not contributing financially. He was removed and shortly after was reportedly staying in Claressa's apartment, driving Claressa's car, and surrounded by Claressa's resources. Even the jewelry moment becomes unsettling when you slow it down. A chain presented as a birthday gift. Claressa calling it new. Then asking a soft question, where's yours? Because the chain was not new. It was his. And that realization does not erupt. It settles. This is the moment where part one shifts from public spectacle into something more personal and more unsettling. Because when resources exchange without clarity and affection overlaps with dependence, intention becomes unclear. And the closing note of this chapter lands with documentation, not emotion. In an older video, Remy Ma addresses Papoose directly, not by nickname, but by name. Willie matters because Willie leads to William or Wilmacki. And that name opens another corridor. Public records show 13 years of unpaid taxes, federal tax liens, 6 figures, multiple filings, and property encumbered, not rumor, but paper. At this stage, the story stops feeling like celebrity chaos. It feels like a structure under pressure, one supported by money moving quietly while narratives remain loud. And just before this section ends, the footage that triggered all of this is addressed directly.
I'm sad to report. Because here's the thing, the Christmas thing, we gotta go back to 2025. I'm so sorry about this, y'all. We gotta rewind it back. I gotta do one spin for this. We gotta rewind it back, okay? So the Christmas thing had me bothered. Had a lot of y'all bothered. Claressa spent Christmas alone. She was live in the Louis Vuitton store buying Louis Vuitton bags and a duffel bag. Posted the receipt of the duffel bag online, had Papoose give her a Louis Vuitton box with a duffel bag in it and forgot that she had posted the receipt stating that she bought the duffel bag that he gave her. Then she said, hey, can you get this online so people would think you bought me something? Okay, cool. I'm gonna sit down right here like this. All right, right there. Put the camera up. Let's go. Same way he was holding the camera for Remy Ma that she claims that he was not with on Christmas Day.
The audience now recognizes the contradiction. They have seen the receipt. They have heard the framing. The illusion stands exposed. But the closing note of this part is not about illusion. It is about removal. Because the first store video did not simply vanish. It was taken down after pressure. And that leads us to the moment that seals this chapter permanently.
And when this video came out and they put it in my DM and I posted it, the owner of this fur coat store deleted the videos. He got a call mysteriously to delete immediately, but too late. Tasha K already had it, bro. Proof that they was together on Christmas. He was with his kids, his wives, Remy. He held the camera when Remy did her little video.
Not with certainty, not with resolution, but with a realization. If videos are being erased, if timelines refuse alignment, if money is shifting quietly, and if marriages never officially conclude, then the story is not about what was said. It is about what they attempted to remove. By the time receipts, deleted footage, and Christmas contradictions settled into place, one question would not disappear. Why did money keep emerging in a story that was supposed to be about love? At first, it looked subtle. A bag here, a car there, an apartment change no one publicly explained. But then the narrative began to lean not toward romance, but toward survival. Because affection can be performed, but debt cannot. This is the moment where the story stops hovering in theory and drops into documentation. Numbers, records, filings that do not care about fame or public sympathy. According to claims raised publicly, the version of Papoose being presented generous, secure, financially dependable, did not match what was quietly resting inside public records. And this is where the name becomes critical. Not the stage name, the legal one. Because once that name appeared, the past stopped being unclear. Years, not months, not a single missed payment, not two, but more than a decade. Tax. Obligations allegedly left unpaid year after year. Lien stacking notices multiplying figures that do not vanish simply because attention shifts. At this stage, the story becomes uncomfortable for a different reason, because it introduces motive. If someone is carrying unresolved financial pressure, the kind that follows regardless of address or association, then every relationship becomes strategic by default. Support stops being emotional. It becomes logistical. This reframes everything that came before. The luxury purchases no longer appear celebratory. The living arrangements no longer seem temporary. And the gift framing no longer reads romantic. It feels required. And then the focus moves. Because while one side of this triangle was allegedly suffocating under years of unpaid obligations, another side was quietly facing its own financial weight. Remy Ma. According to records discussed publicly, she was not standing on stable ground either. Allegedly carrying a tax burden so heavy it reshaped the entire narrative. Over $600,000. That number alters behavior. That number turns silence into strategy. And when two people are bound by history, reputation, and shared exposure, money becomes the adhesive that keeps them aligned even when emotions fracture. This is where the story sharpens. Because if both sides of a marriage are under financial strain, then separation is not just emotional. It is dangerous. Divorce stops being about freedom, it becomes about collapse. And that is when the third point of the triangle begins to appear less like a partner and more like a solution. Claressa Shields, publicly strong, financially active, earning in real time. This is where the allegation cuts deepest. Not that she was involved, but that she was positioned. Positioned as emotional cover, positioned as financial relief, positioned as someone close enough to absorb pressure without knowing the full weight of it. The language used to describe her role is harsh and intentional. A buffer, a lick, a cash machine, not words of affection, words of function. And when earlier moments are replayed through that lens, the behavior changes shape. The duffel bag is not a gift, it is optics. The apartment is not comfort, it is shelter. The jewelry is not romance, it is rotation. And suddenly the Christmas silence does not feel accidental. It feels managed. Because while Claressa says she was alone, the claim is that Papoose was elsewhere with family, with his wife, with stability that never officially ended. That is not a loud betrayal. It is the quietest kind. The kind that allows someone to believe in a future while the present is already decided. And then comes the moment that hardens speculation into something closer to documentation. Not a rumor, not a feeling, but a statement tied directly to records.
And so that's why we weren't able to find details on Papoose and his financial records. And it took us a long time to get these. But when we got these and we saw that he currently owes and has not paid taxes for the past, not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, not six, not seven, not eight, not nine, not 10.
Once that clip surfaced, the atmosphere shifted because now the audience was no longer reacting to gossip. They were reacting to scale. 13 years. That is not oversight. That is avoidance. And avoidance, when paired with luxury imagery and curated emotional narratives, produces a split reality. One reality for the public, another for survival. This is the moment when the theory of a fake deal begins circulating, not as accusation, but as logic. If money is promised but never delivered, if a deal exists on paper but not in cash, if reassurance alone keeps someone invested, then the benefit is not the payout, it is the patience. And patience buys time. Time to dodge consequences. Time to delay exposure. Time to keep everything unresolved. Which brings us back to the divorce that never happened. The withdrawal that caused suspicion. Because if separation would trigger financial reckoning, shared assets reviewed, obligations revealed, debts surfaced, then quietly remaining married becomes the safest course. And in that silence, Clarissa's role becomes tragically clear. Not as a villain, but as collateral. Someone whose earnings could absorb debt without question. Someone whose public presence could distract from financial records. Someone whose trust could be leveraged without paper trails. This is not a love triangle. It is a pressure triangle. And pressure does not require affection. It requires access. By the end of this segment, the story no longer asks whether Claressa was deceived. It asks something colder. Was she ever meant to know? Because when relationships are built on avoidance, honesty becomes a liability. And the silence surrounding the marriage, the finances, the deleted videos, all begin to sound the same. Controlled hearts do not end in outrage. They end in the realization that the gravest danger was not betrayal.
The man is not divorcing his wife. She's not divorcing him because you are the link. He is going to help his wife to get out of debt using the money that you make from fighting. So in my opinion, he's giving you a fake $8 million deal, which is credit. It's there. But if you go win, you don't need it. There's no money.
After this clip, there is no returning to ambiguity because this is not framed as jealousy. It is not framed as bitterness. It is framed as warning. A warning that Claressa may be funding a structure that was never meant for her. A warning that the marriage she assumed had ended was never legally dissolved. A warning that her silence has been convenient for those who benefit from it. And this is where the ending becomes unavoidable. Tasha K's conclusion is not loud. It is final. She does not say the relationship ended. She says it never began, because beginning requires honesty. Beginning requires freedom. Beginning requires the absence of another legal commitment. None of those conditions existed. What remains is a choice, not for the audience, but for Claressa. Does she walk away and force the structure into the light? Or does she remain silent and continue absorbing the cost of a system that was never built for her? That is why this story no longer feels like gossip. It feels like a pattern. Powerful men. Ambiguous relationships. Women kept close, but never fully included. Money used to stabilize silence. Patterns do not vanish simply because they are ignored. They repeat. This part does not end with outrage. It ends with clarity. Because once someone realizes they were never part of the plan, the only real question left is how long they are willing to pay for believing otherwise. And this is where the story stops being entertainment and begins to feel personal. If even half of the allegations are true, then this was not confusion. It was not miscommunication. It was not bad timing. It was design. Carefully paced. Quietly managed. Emotionally costly. Claressa did not lose a relationship. She lost clarity. She was allowed to believe in proximity while commitment existed elsewhere. Allowed to invest while the framework around her remained untouched. Allowed to stand in the spotlight while decisions were made in rooms she never entered. That is not heartbreak. That is positioning. And the most dangerous part is not the money. It is the silence. Silence protects systems. Silence hides debt. Silence lets marriages remain legally intact while emotions are outsourced elsewhere. This is how people are used without ever being openly rejected. No breakup. No honesty. No clean ending. Only distance disguised as affection. If you are watching this and think it could never happen to you, that is exactly why stories like this keep repeating. They do not start with lies. They start with access. They start with reassurance. They start with promises that feel real enough to delay questions. Until one day, the receipts surface, the videos disappear, the timelines collide, and the truth weighs heavier than the lies ever did. So ask yourself this. If the relationship were real, why did it require so much silence to survive? If the intentions were pure, why does everything only make sense when you follow the money? This is not about choosing sides. It is about recognizing patterns. Patterns do not care who you are. They only care that you remain quiet long enough for someone else to benefit. And once you see that, you cannot unsee it. The question is no longer what happens next in the story.